We are Movie Menu Reviews, Annihilating the other podcasts.
What?
On today's menu, we'll be reviewing Annihilation. Welcome, ladies and gents. I'm Dan the Man Muñoz, host of Movie Menu Reviews, your weekly movie news and reviews podcast, here on episode 177.
177.
Yeah. Lucky number 7.
Hopefully.
Lucky number 107.
There's 2
We're
sevens.
about to be lucky somehow. Joining us today is our special guest, Alexander Dunn. Thank you for being on the show.
Hey, welcome back.
Yeah, glad to be back.
Cinematographer, director of photography, filmmaker extraordinaire. Thank you for being on here.
Of course.
Also here today is our senior panelist and co-host, Z.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Also here, and always here, is our audience member, Rigo!
Hey!
Intern. An intern.
To be fair, he's been forced to be here because he's an intern.
Yeah.
Also, he has no right to go home, so
He's just been
technically
here
kidnapping.
this whole time.
Yeah.
But also here, and who has to be here, is my co-host, Mike Sam. So we have a couple movie news that we're going to discuss before we go into our review for Annihilation. First up, let's go ahead and talk about this article that came out saying that there was a report that says Aquaman had a test audience screening, and that the people who saw the test audience, the movie, thought Aquaman was amazing. That they especially talked about the action in the film, the story of the film. That they said it was really, really well done. Now, what I want to discuss is like how can we really rely on test audiences? Movies do this a lot. They get a bunch of random people to watch their film, and they call it a test audience because it's supposed to be all over the spectrum of what they would think the film is, or how they would like the film, to get an honest response about it. Now, do you guys believe in these test screenings? Do you believe that we can trust them, or do you believe that they're just a PR move? Because you only hear test screenings when they're good,
right?
Yeah.
Well, just to add to it, they also look for demographics. They look to, the CGI is never finished on those guys anyway, so like you get a really raw take of the film. You're mainly looking at whether or not the story is cohesive in some way. So the fact that people are saying that Aquaman, a film that is going to be heavily CGI'd, is awesome, I'm not willing to believe that 100%.
Yeah, and I'm still not sold on DC films in general.
Yeah.
I mean, even with Wonder Woman being good, it's tough sell to feel like any DC film is going to be good coming out. So I feel like I'm just going to wait. I don't know if I can trust whatever audience is doing it, or if it's a critic, really.
Right.
I think it's all marketing.
Yeah,
That's what for sure.
And I feel like especially now in the time of like Rotten Tomatoes and how the RT score is such a huge thing, right? Like a lot of films have been coming out lately with 100% Rotten Tomatoes scores. That makes absolutely no sense to me. So the fact that even at this they're releasing information saying that the film, everyone's loving it. No, there's got to be one person. Listen, there's always one of me in the audience who is a complete asshole. So what about that? I want to know that guy's opinion on the film, because that's the person who makes the film better if they're in the audience. So the fact that everyone is like...
Now, I remember you guys went to a test audience screening of...
Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, we just lied and said we loved it. No.
There you go.
No, Mike knows this. I did not do that. I sat there and they gave us a pen and they were like
Z was the last. He really was the last one. It was me and Z. Everyone else walked out, and like Z was writing like a book report.
Yeah. I was like, you need to fix this.
So the reason why it became so good is because of you, Z?
I'm not gonna lie. A lot of the changes they did in that film, they did, and I had written them out previously. So I'm just saying they may have listened to me.
Z's name is in the credits.
Uncredited.
Guest writer.
Like asshole, because I don't think they asked for our names. But like, yeah, like
supposed to be anonymous.
Yeah.
You still put your name on it, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely. I was contact me if you got further questions. This is a C average film, and then it came out and it was way better than what we had seen. So, and they fixed the inconsistencies in the end because the logic, the sci-fi logic, made no sense in the first take. And so I was happy with the product because I enjoyed the film when it was released. So I'm just saying, like, test audiences are important, but the fact that people are loving it, that's not a good sign. A good sign is people who are saying, like, it's not that good, it needs to be fixed, because that makes for a better film. Yeah.
And who knows if the CGI is actually going to mess it up more.
That is true.
Because, I mean, DC has not been the best at CGI. It kind of has that same look in all the films, and like I'm curious if they're going to try to change things up, or it's going to kind of have that same Zack Snyder-y type of look.
Oh,
and then who knows?
Well, I mean, I think it's Jason Wan, or I forgot the director.
Is it Lin or
Lin? It's a different person.
No, not Lin.
Okay.
James Wan. James Wan is directing Aquaman. So it could be potentially a good film, but do you feel like they're jumping ahead? There's no trailer out. There's nothing out. They're just doing this test audience. This group of people enjoyed this film.
They're gonna.
Is that something that gets you guys excited, or does that like kind of turn you off because there's no proof of that?
I think it's all marketing, but I think it's smart though to kind of pump everybody up for it. But I agree with you. I think.
Well, and even at that, like,
can you rely on it?
Why would marketing be pumping so hard right now? It's because DC is losing the game in the audience really quickly. So this feels like a sort of like a Baghdad Bob moment where like they're like, no, we're not. We're doing fine. The world isn't burning down. I swear to you.
Except now we have another news article that came out.
Yeah, there we
go. That's a nice segue, right?
Thank you. Yeah,
good segue. Z, take it over, please.
So several things. One, Justice League got released, right? But it had 2 directors. Now, they wasn't credited as 2 directors. It was credited as 1 director, Zack Snyder, because you can't change the second director credit after a certain period. I forget how it works.
Well, it depends on how much footage was actually filmed.
Exactly. And quite a bit was reshot. So Joss Whedon made the agreement that he would go on to help Justice League by, re-editing, recutting, and restructuring the story. He got a story credit at the very least, with the exception that he gets the opportunity to make Batgirl. To, of course, everyone who loves Buffy knows that's a great idea. However, Justice League got released, and a lot of people didn't like it. So, with that being said, Joss Whedon has now stepped away from directing and writing Batgirl. So, is this a result of the Justice League not doing well?
Well, it's also a result because maybe Joss Whedon didn't like the way that DC handled themselves within the making the film.
For sure. I mean,
because it seems like DC, especially the executives, they seem like they might not know what they're doing for the most part.
Yeah,
they're giving notes of a superhero franchise that should be making billions of dollars,
right,
and not even barely cracking 100
exactly
million.
And the thing is, right, like man, it has been a mishandled property since day one. I feel like once Nolan stepped away,
day one,
no, but I feel like once Nolan stepped away and he gave it to Zack Snyder. Now Zack Snyder's a completely different story because you know more about this, Dan. But Zack Snyder was fired from the whole franchise.
Yeah. So a year later, this entertainment reporter named Josh Dickey, he was leaving the industry and he was going to break the story a year ago, saying that Zack Snyder was fired. But when the news came out that his daughter committed suicide, he held back on that story. But for some reason, a year later, he decides, like, nope, I was going to see, this is finally my article that was going to break the news. I'm not going to be part of the entertainment industry anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and just tell my story that I wanted to tell a year ago that I couldn't because of that sensitive material. Why he did that now, I have no idea. But apparently, he came out with the story saying that Zack Snyder was actually fired. So because his Justice League was unwatchable, his cut.
Right, because he had like a 4-hour cut that was just completely unwatchable. And then for us who love the DC property, I'm sure we're all going, good. That's exactly the right thing to do. He hasn't been turning out really good products. But also, that just means that, like, for me, the idea of Joss Whedon going in, trying to fix it, he felt like he had no backing, no confidence in the people who were actually leading it.
It was like a sinking ship already.
Yeah, like
no
a dumpster fire.
I think the damage has already kind of been done.
Yeah.
They like let Zack Snyder stick around way too long. Like after the first, I think it was the Man of Steel was his first attempt. As soon as that was released, which I don't think that was very good at all.
Nor did I.
And I think that should have been like, okay, let's get rid of him. But then they're like, let's give him 2 more movies,
right?
And then it was like, why? This is already bad. We should just restart already and try something new. I don't know if they'd already invested so much into it.
Yeah,
but I think it's already been done, and I think kind of like.
Well, I think the person who hired Zack Snyder back then is no longer in charge of DC.
That is also true. Yeah, and they've changed so many executives.
There's so many executives have been like mix-ups and stuff.
Yeah, and I think with the result, and I know you didn't like Wonder Woman as much as we did, but like with the result of Wonder Woman being the exception to the rule and being like, all right. Why can we do this, but we can't seem to be able to do a Justice League film? Why is it not working? And I think just by identifying that Zack Snyder was the person who was not helping.
But also, can I just throw out there, I mean, do we really need a Batgirl movie? We do need one, but let's fix this first with
fix the franchise
Batman
first.
and
Well, they were
and
right.
Superman.
So we don't even know where the Batman property currently is at.
Well,
either.
yeah, because there's talks that Ben Affleck doesn't
out.
want to be Batman anymore.
Yeah, and John Hamm might be in. I forget who else. Jake Gyllenhaal was also thrown into the mix.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So they're looking. From what I've read, they're looking in the background to hire somebody
To
when
replace,
Ben Affleck gets fired, because it's going to happen pretty soon.
I mean, there's other characters too. Like, I don't know why they don't do like a Green Lantern one.
Right.
Try
Yeah.
a reboot of that. Like, that's another property they haven't really done anything for. Or, I don't know. Are they like done with Martian Manhunter? Is he gone?
I don't
like,
think.
Is he?
Yeah, he's in the TV verse.
He is in
with,
the
Supergirl.
I don't think they're going to cover him just yet. I think if anything, that's going to be like phase 2 once they start opening it up.
Yeah.
But like they haven't even gotten started with phase 1 yet, and it's like already you're seeing all these directors pull out, and you're just kind of like, do we really have confidence in this? Clearly, executives in DC and Warner Brothers does not have confidence in this. So as a fan, we're kind of left like, come on, guys.
Well, you know who has confidence in their phase 2 is Tommy Wiseau's and Greg Sestero's next movie.
Damn, good segue.
Best
king of
friends,
segues.
best fiends. So we just saw the trailer. The trailer has been out for a while, but they just we relaunched it, I guess. So we want to go ahead and talk about it, especially since if you follow our Instagram story, you saw that Mike ran ahead and put up the poster that we got for the room that we saw a midnight screening of, or midnight screening, not midnight screening, late night screening.
It was
a late night
late
screening.
screening. Yeah.
Midnight.
No, it was late night.
It was like
10:30.
Yeah, it was 10:30.
Tommy was there. And
Might
he
as
was,
well have been midnight.
It
started like an hour late.
It just started an hour
true.
late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, it was because Tommy was talking shit to the whole audience.
He was.
So
He
it was
was.
amazing.
Yeah, it's also on Instagram if you want to follow
Yeah,
us on
yeah.
Instagram. We have the whole feed on there.
Like, why do you care about what I have for breakfast?
Yeah, every question he
Yeah.
was just shooting right down until one of the girl, one
That's
person who was a
stupid,
girl
man.
dressed in like in
Stupid.
the red the red lingerie showed up, and he's like, "Come closer," and you're just kind of like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
Tommy, you
We had
perv.
gone too far.
So, what did you guys think of the trailer for Best Friends? Fiends.
Best
Friends,
Friends.
Fiends.
It
I'll let you guys know what
it
this-
looks like it's taking itself more seriously.
Well, Tommy is not directing this one.
Yes, he's not,
So-
and then I
And
think
you
it
can
shows.
tell. But yeah, you can tell which shot Tommy directed. And all the other
But
ones.
he didn't direct. He's not directing this, right?
He might be doing second unit. You never know.
Probably.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But it's written by Greg Sestero. And the funny thing I like is that it's based on actual events. And
Yeah.
they said that in the
What
trailer.
does that mean?
I'm like, is that...
Maybe they did that in real life before shooting the film. I don't know.
Yeah, because like the other trailer, the one from before, like shows way more story. This one's kind of like vague, which I think is in their
Like a
advantage.
teaser, yeah, probably.
Yeah, because if the other one's like it's about them, like Greg Sestero's character gets killed by like his family gets killed by like ninjas or something,
Yeah.
and
What?
then he comes to like Hollywood, and then like Tommy Wiseau has like a funeral home. Or,
Yeah,
or
he has like
something.
he's driving a
hearse,
hearse, yeah.
And then he picks him up, and they like start stealing from dead bodies.
Yeah.
All this is not in this trailer, but
Yeah. He's like,
but
he's like, who are you? He's like, just come in my car. Come
Yeah.
on.
so it's kind of good they didn't show that stuff because this trailer is actually sort of watchable and it kind of gets you a little interested. It's not necessarily great, but
That's
it's better than the other one.
I'm just hoping it's still bad because
Yeah.
we want to at the very least enjoy watching it.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
that's a good quote. It should go on the poster. Unnecessarily great.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome. Okay, we're gonna move over to our Annihilation review, so stay tuned for that, guys.
Yeah, and no spoilers.
no spoilers.
So don't run
There will
away.
be a spoiler section, but we will not be live on that.
Hey.
All right, guys. So, Annihilation, written and directed by Alex Garland, based on a novel by Jeff Vandermeer. Here's the plot. A biologist signs up for a dangerous secret expedition where the laws of nature don't apply. Stars Natalie Portman, Oscar Isaac, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Tessa Thompson, and Gina Rodriguez. I have not seen this film, so depending on your spoiler-free review, I shall decide if this movie is worth a dine-in and watching in theaters, take out way to watching at home, or leftovers, go into a weird space and never come back
Sure, that's good.
to avoid watching this movie. Whoever.
I'm like, where's so Florida?
That's pretty weird. No, you don't want to go there.
yeah, that's too weird.
That's worse than the
I mean, there are alligators there too, so I imagine Florida.
Yeah.
Go to Florida. I think that's
no. Don't go in the Shimmer. Go in the Shimmer.
Don't
go
the
to
The option is Shimmer versus Florida.
Go to the Shimmer.
Go to the Shimmer.
Mutate. That's some weird thing.
Good place to retire.
Shimmer.
That's true.
Retire in the Shimmer.
Yep.
All right. So whoever wins earns a point. Whoever has the most points in the season will go ahead and get a segment for the end of next season.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, you have a chance to go ahead and earn a point and continue to keep your points. And after 10 points, you can go ahead and develop a segment of your own choosing as well.
Sweet.
Or you can give your points away.
Yeah, you could also do that, which is what I usually do.
So, all right, guys, go ahead and rate this film. Alex,
you're the guest.
Sorry, what was the dine-in option? I just want to make sure I say it.
Dine-in, watching in theaters, take out what you're watching at home, or leftovers.
Oh, I know there was like a fun little.
No.
Get annihilated or something. I don't know. That's actually bad, I guess.
I think that'll be the leftovers. That's the last one. Yeah.
Okay, we'll do dine-in, retire in the Shimmer. Leftovers, go ahead and evolve into something at home, and take out
of the Shimmer.
Go to Florida.
Go to Florida. Oof.
Oh, dine in.
Each of those options seem really bad. I'm gonna go with takeout.
Okay.
Yeah. So for me, it's watch it.
I'm really interested to hear what Mike says. This was Mike's most anticipated film.
It was also mine. No, this is also on my category as well. Like I was looking.
I didn't pay attention to you.
Clearly, you didn't pay attention to me. But I've read the book, and I was looking forward to watching this film. So the fact that it didn't live up to my expectations, I'll get into it.
Got it. Yeah. Well, first I gotta say that this film is definitely not gonna be for everybody.
I agree with that.
And so I'll say this is a soft dine-in.
Okay.
Soft dine-in.
Soft dine-in, and then two.
I hate it when you guys do that. What was for that? I just want to punish you and just go with leftovers.
Then you go with takeout.
You want to push me in the Shimmer?
All right. So this is Alex Garland's second directorial debut film. He did Ex Machina, but he's been known as a screenwriter.
He's a great writer. Yeah, he did Dread, Never Let Me Go, Sunshine, which is one of my all-time.
I love Sunshine. He also did 28 Days Later.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's worked with Danny Boyle many times. Now he's transitioned into becoming a director. Now you saw his first film, Ex Machina. I'm not sure what you thought of it, Alex. I know what these guys thought of it, but do you think he's progressing in the right direction where he's with his craft, or is he going like the guy who did Elysium and?
Oh no! Nowhere near
Neil
that.
Blomkamp, thank you.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of solidified his style. I think
so.
You could definitely see Ex Machina, if you put them two together, like you could see it's directed by the same person.
I agree with that.
He definitely has a very specific style that he likes to stick to, which is good, and he's sticking with sci-fi as well, which I think is definitely his strong suit based on what he's written and what he's directed so far.
Right, and with these two films, you can definitely say that he's an auteur. Like he really has a visual style.
Well, with the budget, though, right?
It wasn't that much.
It wasn't that much.
Well, it's all the special effects. I'm assuming it had to have been costly.
And so he knows how to show you visually exactly what you need to see. The one issue, though, and I feel like we really need to start talking about like Black Mirror, which is a TV show that's currently on Netflix. This film feels a lot like a Black Mirror episode.
I love Black Mirror.
Except right, because I've grown so used to watching them at home. I was like, why couldn't this have been a 90-minute film? And why couldn't
how long is it?
It's 2 hours.
It's a little under, I think, almost.
It's 155.
Like, 155.
But even so, like it felt too long for me. And on top of that, the pacing of this film just drags. So when Mike is saying that this is not a film for everybody, unless you're used to watching art house films.
That's exactly what I was going to mention.
Yeah, this is not a film.
Yeah.
The high concept film?
It's a high concept film that takes
Would it be
on
the same level as like Arrival? Because Arrival wasn't for everyone either.
I would
Thinking Man sci-fi.
Yeah, I would say it's probably very similar.
Also, Thinking Man sci-fi. This is a Thinking Man sci-fi as well.
Definitely, but with a sci-fi horror kind of element.
Oh yeah, that's the part that I didn't expect. The horror elements of this film.
That's not in the novel.
It would. Okay, so here's the thing about Alex Garland. Okay, Alex Garland read the book. The property got bought by the studio, and he said, "I want to write it." He wants to write the script. So when he had the option to reread the book and try to adapt it directly, he decided to go off memory. And so this film is nothing like the book. The idea of the shimmer is in the story. The idea of the way that the area.
So he was just too lazy to reread it.
That's exactly it. And so I kind of was annoyed by that. However, Oscar Isaac and Natalie Portman are so great, and they've got such great chemistry together.
Oh, good, because she never has chemistry with her male leads.
I actually disagree with Z. I felt like they didn't. I felt like they didn't have chemistry, but it works for the story. So as the story progresses,
and I'm just talking about Star Wars and Thor.
Oh yeah.
Well,
it's the
totally
same.
different.
Like
I thought there was good chemistry there.
I didn't buy it.
I mean, Natalie Portman's such a strong character and personality. I mean, I guess she always kind of outshines.
She plays
people.
independently well. I mean, I like Jackie for that reason.
Yeah,
she played well in that. But
you guys like Jackie.
Yeah, we're the Jackie lovers. I think Oscar Isaac holds his own, but they're not really in the film too. I mean, they're in it together, but you don't really get as much love sequences.
So the interesting part about this film, in similar to Arrival, it's told in different timelines. So you're seeing things in the past, you're seeing things in the present, and so you're just kind of trying to weave back and forth the story. I enjoyed the story, the segments with Oscar Isaacs, and seeing the development. Now, so the central premise of the story is that there's this shimmer going on in Area X, right? You have to cross over to this land where this meteor hit. So they're trying to figure out what's going on there. And one of the things that Natalie Portman's character does is she's a biologist, and so she studies cancer cells. So when she goes in there, she's studying to figure out what's going on with her husband, who had just returned from Area
And he's the only
X.
one that's returned, because
he's the only survivor.
Yeah.
So it's like Bermuda Triangle style, where anything that goes in doesn't come out, no messages come out, nothing will come out.
Yeah.
So
and it keeps growing in size.
And
so it's expanding.
It keeps expanding.
Yeah.
And the military is setting up secret bases around to study what's happening.
Right. And one of the things that Natalie Portman's character talks about is how it's part of a gene theory, which is actually really high concept. So I was shocked to hear her talk about it. Is that our cells are always determined to die, because that's just how it works. We age because our cells die. And so this idea of purity ending up with corruption, that's the story. And so we see that in the relationships, we see that in the action, we see that in the whole plot. So I thought that part was done really well, in that Alex Garland clearly went to some Bio 101 and was hunkered down and was all right, how do I do this? Because in the same way that Arrival does it with linguistics, this movie does it with biology. So I think it'll fit side by side with those.
Companion piece.
Double feature. You can watch these two, and it will definitely tell a similar story.
That's a lot of thinking, though.
This is kind of I think this is more abstract than Arrival, though. I think this is it's kind of in the same vein as almost The Fountain.
Yes.
Oh my God. It gets very Darren Aronofsky, where it's what is happening now? How do I
love The Fountain, though.
Yeah.
And that's a good part.
I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in where it may lose some people when they watch it.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like The Fountain.
Yeah, and it'll be for the same reasons where they're I've checked out.
What?
And I won't blame them. I won't blame them either. It kind of also has a little bit of Under the Skin, if you've seen that. Yeah. So thankfully not as slow, but similar in concepts.
Mm-hmm. I think it's more put together better than those few films.
Sure.
I felt like I never was confused. But I saw it with my girlfriend, and she said that she was slightly confused at some points, probably because of the non-linear editing of it all. Mm-hmm. But I found that it was much more put together better than some other films that are kind of confusing. I don't think it was really trying to confuse you at any point. It was more maybe the way it was edited might confuse people.
That's what I think it was.
But it didn't dumb itself for the audience. It made sure that the audience would either you follow us or you don't.
Yeah, I think it did
enough.
I feel like it did dumb itself down a little bit, and I think it did that with the narration between Natalie Portman and I'm sorry, I'm sorry?
Oscar Isaac?
No.
Benedict Wong?
Benedict Wong.
I
felt so. There's this narration. There's this present tense back and forth interview between her and Natalie Portman and Benedict Wong, and I feel like it's all let us explain this to you, audience, and I feel like that kind of ruins the momentum of the film, and I think it also kind of weakens it in terms of the editing time. I felt like all of that could have been cut out, and I feel like the film could have benefited from that.
It would have moved a lot faster due to it. No, I agree with that, and I think ultimately my biggest issue is the pacing of this film. This film feels slow. And then the interesting part, there are moments where it move really fast because you're shocked at what you're seeing, and like I wanted more of those scenes. Because
now let's talk about the actresses in it because there's Tessa Thompson, Jennifer Jason Leigh.
They're all
Gina
amazing.
Rodriguez and Natalie Portman.
Oh, really?
I have my one like for sure, but this is probably just a subjective thing about this actress. Is I think Jennifer Jason Leigh was horrible.
Really?
I just don't really like her as an actress.
Sure.
I mean, maybe it's just her.
I get it because
I don't know. She just has in this film. It just kind of carries that same Jennifer Jason Leigh type feel to her. I don't know. I never vibed with her.
I was getting hints of what was the movie with Quentin Tarantino?
Hateful Eight.
Yeah, I was getting hints of that. I was like,
she's just weird.
She's in the wrong film right now. What is she doing?
Yeah, that whole time I kind of kept feeling like, what? Who? Why? She played an important part, but not enough for me to be like, I don't care about you.
And the interesting,
like everyone else I cared about. Every other actress, I was like, okay, you're playing.
Why
some important
you're here.
role.
You know why you're here.
Exactly. Yeah. She was the only one.
And here's the thing about the character in the book versus Ventress in the book is not known as Ventress; she's just known as the psychologist. Her character has such an important role that they neutered her character completely.
Really?
Oh yeah. Like the term annihilation. Now this is not a spoiler anymore because clearly this movie doesn't do it. In the book is a kill term. So whenever she would say to one of the soldiers as she goes into the Shimmer in Area X, she will tell them annihilation, and they will try to kill themselves.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's a completely darker story in the book. So the fact that her character was not even like that interesting, it was more of like she's here because she's determined to do something. That's the part where I agree with you. I felt confused about her character, her motivations. You knew why everybody else was there, but her character, you're like,
Did she have some sort of motivation
at
one point?
They do kind of mention it, but it's weak.
It gets muddied.
It's kind of just thrown in there. It's like, oh, by the way, there's this thing going on with her, and you're like, oh,
yeah.
Okay.
But
I mean, I don't know why I care.
She's kind of like, I guess it's kind of like a robotic.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. Yeah,
bit.
it's more robotic. Tessa Thompson's I feel like she's barely in the movie, to be honest, right? She kind of shows up and she's in the background a lot, but you really don't get much of a significance until, you get to that very end with her, and you're just kind of like, that was cool. And the person I don't know much about, Gina Rodriguez, I loved her in this.
Yeah, she was great.
She stood out to me as like, whoa, this movie's a lot of like, whoa, I didn't expect that.
She's in Jane the Virgin.
I
don't watch Jane the Virgin. Thank you. Chris has recommended repeatedly. I'm not going to watch it. So she was amazing to watch as well. And then of course Natalie Portman was just stand out. Like every moment, like I believe that she was both a biologist and a soldier. Yeah. So
because they show action in this movie. How is the action like? Because I see there was a scene in the trailer where she's like shooting guns and stuff. And does it look like? Is it all believable, basically? Is it like really cool? Like you buy them doing?
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, and I think
and how's the special effects? Because I know there's a ton of special
effects.
Oh
my god,
fantastic!
They're fantastic.
The world that they've created inside the Shimmer is just
really beautiful.
In the trailer, there's like deer with like it's like flowers or something.
The main if there's like a monster that's coming after them, that is really, really interestingly designed too. And I guess apparently it's practical effects too. Like
I believe that.
Partially practical effects, partially CGI stuff. So that's like really terrifying and really interesting.
Oh my god, there was that moment where I was like, I got shivers because I was like, oh, I haven't felt this in a horror movie for a while, and this is not a horror movie, but it was really well designed. Everything about it reminded me a lot of Alien in the H.R. Giger design work. Because you were like you see a lot of those. I don't even know what Giger would call them, but like it's like veiny. Skeleton like designs, and it's some amazing work. I expect this movie to be nominated, to be honest, for its design work.
Very well done in terms of the design work.
Well, Ex Machina was nominated, and it came out around the same time this year. But it was nominated, so it might get nominated again.
For sure,
I think for sure.
Yeah,
you can. It's funny. One thing about it, just jumping on that Alien point, is that you can see a lot of influences from many different movies and even video games in some ways. I don't know if anyone's played Dead Space. And Dead Space, there's like a part that I like totally was like, that's Dead Space. Like it's just like there's something that happens to one of the soldiers. I think guy. But in the movie, the thing that happens to that soldier that is in the pool.
Yeah.
There's a thing that if you play Dead
amazing.
Space, there's like some weird like mutation-y type things that happen, and Yeah, and then obviously the alien stuff, like there's some like set design that you're like, that just looks like it came out of Alien.
Yeah. Kind of reminded me of like Event Horizon.
Definitely, that was my other one.
Yeah.
I love. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have like a weird love for that movie. Even
Oh,
though
yeah,
it's not a
yeah,
great
amazing
movie,
movie.
but
It's an amazing film.
Yeah.
But anyway, so with that being said, things that I didn't like. I didn't like the pacing. I could have done away with at least 30 minutes. As Mike was saying, that there was at least a good chunk of the story you could have just cut out, and you could have revealed at the very end without needing to do all this backward explaining.
Yeah.
This film felt like a 90-minute film that was extended to a full 2 hours. That was the biggest issue for me. And there were also some I wrote down here Dance Dance Revolution, so I didn't give anything away. But there are moments in the film where I was just kind of like, you didn't need all that. You could have just cut some of these shots down, made it a little more concise, and you would have had a much more streamlined. In the same way that Ex Machina just felt fast, this film felt like it was being held down by something. And I think it has to do with Alex Garland not rereading the book and remembering what actually happened in the story. Like, what is exactly the shimmer and what does it do to people? But as far as that is concerned, the thesis of the story is solid. Like, I really thoroughly enjoyed the idea of like corruption in ourselves through time. That was beautiful. So I think this movie should be watched, but you shouldn't run off to watch in theaters. I think this is the one you can sit at home with. Yeah, you can sit at home with, and you will need that, because I sat with this film for at least a solid day before I actually had an opinion about it. Because I was like, what did I just watch? But I know I liked it, but I didn't like it. Why didn't I like it as much as I did Ex Machina? That's what it was.
Yeah, in the first half of the film, I was kind of like, just I was debating on it. I was like, all right, let me wait and see. Yeah. But by the time it was over, I was like, all right, I loved it.
Okay,
I really enjoyed it. But at the same time, I see how
you understand why someone wouldn't like it.
Yeah, I could understand why a lot of people won't like this.
Ooh, a lot of people won't like it.
Yeah, or some people. But if you're a fan of like,
you mean
more,
dummies?
no. I don't mean it like that either. Like, there's
you
nothing.
Mean dum-dums.
No, I mean, different strokes for different folks. If you don't like the more abstract films, you won't enjoy this. But I think that the visuals are so visually stunning that it's worth watching it on the big screen, especially if you could like. It would be an interesting experience to see this in 4D.
No,
I would.
I would. It's terrifying, actually.
I do not want to vomit.
I think like all good sci-fi horror, it like most, even like Alien, like it takes a long time to get going until that basically the alien pops out of the shed. It's like, so it's good because it built, like, you don't know it's sci-fi horror until it reaches a point you're like, whoa, this is a horror movie.
I agree.
You know, and even to the end, it ends very much like a really good horror movie should end. Like, it leaves you with questions and leaves you thinking about like, what does that mean for everything?
Yeah.
And so I'm not really bugged by the pace. I do agree that there was a point where I was kind of like, oh, it's a little slow, but I didn't let that bug me. I just, because like I when it got to things happening, it kind of picked it back up.
Oh, okay.
And it felt okay in terms of the pacing.
Yeah. Without spoilers, what did you guys think of the ending? Do you guys feel like it succeeded or did it fail?
I think succeeded.
Okay.
I think it succeeded.
Okay.
It didn't tell too much in the very end. It kind of left it open for you to decide.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Yeah, I think it succeeded, but in a very, like, again, broken mirror sort of way.
Okay. Final thoughts.
Me first?
Yeah.
Okay. So just to reflect what I've been saying, it's a visually stunning movie. So I think there's any reason to see it on the big screen, it's to see it on a big screen, just to see those visuals bigger than on, like, a good 4K TV at home.
Yeah.
While that would look good, I'm sure, it's still really awesome to see the world that they created through the production design and the visual effects on a big screen. The acting is good. The story is interesting. Is it a little bit of a slow burner? Sure, but I think it really pays off in the end, and it leaves you kind of with that really good horror ending where you kind of left thinking about things.
Z?
Yeah, I would say watch this film at home because of the same reasons you just said. Because it's one of those films that would benefit from pausing and admiring. Because there are so many great visual elements in this film that, like, as an audience member watching the film the first time, I want to just pause and watch, like just look at the scenery and look at what they've designed, like the trees that they designed in this film. It's just like, oh my God, that's gorgeous. And I think you see part of it in the trailer, so hopefully I'm not spoiling anything. So with that being said, I would also say watch it at home so that you can sit with. I don't think if I watch this film at home, I would ever like fully stop it and not go back to it. I'd watch it through and want to think about it. And if you have friends who are academically minded, this is one to watch with them so that you guys can ask each other questions at the end of going, what did we just watch? Why it was as good as it was. And, so I feel because of that reason, watch it at home so you can actually have that time to linger. Because if you watch it alone in theaters, you're not going to get the same experience as you would when you're watching it at home.
Mike?
I would say watch it multiple times if you can.
Mm-hmm.
If you enjoy the visuals so much, you can see it again.
All right, I've heard enough of you guys.
Silence,
annihilate.
And then we kill ourselves because that's the kill term.
Yeah.
All right, so you guys brought up some good points. I do have a 4K big screen TV at home that that I would enjoy watching.
Not as rich as you are.
I'm not rich at all, but I think I'm gonna go with dining and watching in theaters because I do enjoy watching movies in theaters where home is a little distracting.
Sure. Okay.
For this one, it seems like you need all in
The
to go ahead and
visuals,
watch it.
Yeah.
But not just the visual, but just to pay attention. You need it to be all in,
Yeah.
and at home it's just too many distractions.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say dining and watching in theaters.
Okay.
Do you guys earn points?
I do not.
Mike and Alex.
But side note, if you live internationally, so not in the States, Annihilation will be released on Netflix, I believe, in 2 weeks. So
Wow.
you can
Alright.
watch it anywhere else but here.
That's nice.
Yay!
Dan will be
We're number 2.
So that would do it for us for spoiler free. We're gonna go ahead and move over to spoiler section, but we won't do it live. So don't worry. You can listen to our spoilerific review on Tuesday when we release the episode. So stay tuned for that. Before we go though, Alex, would you like to promote anything?
No, I'm good. I mean,
good?
I've done on enough. If you want to see my work, you go on my website. It's alexanderldunn.com. Just been working on little things here and there. It's nothing crazy.
So stay tuned and watch that. So we're gonna go ahead and transition over to spoilerific. So stay tuned for that. Thank you.
One more